Clifton from Dignity Memorial.
Clifton.
Are you Mike or Gene?
I'm Gene. I'm
Oh.
not in Clifton.
Oh, thank you.
And we met at the street fair in Carlsbad?
Yes, yes. I met you up there.
Yeah, you did. You kind of twisted my arm a little bit, huh?
Yes.
Hey, Mike, you got some company.
Oh. Yeah.
This is my brother Mike.
Oh, hey, Clifton, how are you?
Clifton Dignity
I
Memorial.
remember you, yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, so, you want some water or anything?
Yes, that would be nice. Can I have a seat here? Or
Sure, go ahead.
just sit around the table, that'll make it
Yeah.
easy. I have a few things to show you, so the tabletop works out just great.
Here you go.
Oh, thank you. Well, you guys, I have to say, you have a really beautiful home here. How long have you lived here?
Well, it's Jean's house. I was just over visiting, but we kind of planned for you coming.
Oh, perfect. Gene, how long have you had the house?
10 years.
10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Looks like you've done some recent remodeling. Do you do that yourself or contract that out?
Well, if it looks good, somebody else did it. Yeah, so,
I can show you the parts he did.
Where are you guys from originally?
Me from Huntington Beach. Jean grew up in Washington, blended family thing.
Oh, I see. I'm a native Californian myself, Southern California, kind of born and raised, so I can kind of relate. Any kids?
Well, I do. I'm widowed.
Oh,
And,
sorry to hear that.
My wife had 2 and I had 3, so we had 5 between us.
Yeah. Okay, and what about you?
just the sunshine. I wanted to move down here and be close to my brother.
Okay, no kids?
I've got one daughter, yeah, but we're not real close to her, so.
Yeah, okay. I noticed the picture there. Is that her wedding picture I see on the wall there?
Sure.
That probably cost you a pretty penny, right?
Yeah, that's expensive, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple funerals or 3, I don't know.
I can totally relate. Again, I'm native San Diego myself, so I kind of grew up in the area. And just to give you a little information about myself, but before I do that, let me just ask you this. Why is it that you let me come in and talk to you guys tonight?
Well, I'll start off.
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
First off, he's the grumpy one.
Okay.
And he's still ticked off because when our brother died, it wasn't handled very well.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
And second off, since then, we've lost both dad and mom. And death is for both of us, a sore subject. He's kind of guarded about it. I'm realizing that we have a legacy here that needs to carry on for our kids. And so it seems like we need to do something.
And I can relate to that. I remember when my father died, my family was really kind of unprepared for that. I had a couple of strong sisters that handled that. And then just recently, my uncle, in a period of 30 days, had his daughter die, his wife die, and his brother. So, me, myself, I've never thought of dealing with death or even really think about dying. But when the opportunity came about to work for Dignity, it really kind of made sense to me. And now, I actually have an opportunity to help people maximize their investment in cemetery and funeral services by minimizing their risk when it comes to making a purchase, so that they don't have to get caught up in paying extra prices based on an emotional purchase at a time of need. And that's something that's important to me, because when people have to make those decisions last minute, it can really be costly. Again, I've raised here in San Diego and just live close by, and this is something that's important to me. What would you guys like to accomplish by the end of the evening here today?
Well, I'd like to have him be more open-minded and listen to the idea that we need to plan for, he and I are it, this is our family. We need to plan for our final arrangements.
Okay.
I guess what I'm thinking is cemetery where we're near one another, and then from that point in the future, if anything were to happen to kids or grandkids, they would know what we did, and if they wanted to be a part of it, they might be a part of it too.
Well, that's definitely something we can help you with. Now, Mike, I know you mentioned that you're a widow. When your wife died, did you have to make those arrangements yourself?
Sadly, I did, and it caught me off guard. That's another reason. It was pretty hard on me at the time, and it was a last minute thing. It was a car crash. It was not a.
Oh, so sorry to hear that.
And I had never cremated.
Were there any pre-planned arrangements?
No, that's what I'm saying. It was,
Nothing was pre-planned, so you
complete-
kind of know how frustrating that can be.
Yeah, it really did knock me off my feet.
Well, one of the things that both of you are going to discover by the end of the night when I leave here today is that by pre-planning some of these arrangements, it's actually more about protecting the ones that you love than it is about us. And to help us with that conversation, I brought a booklet along that I'm going to share with you that kind of makes this conversation just a little bit easier.
Pay attention.
I've got insurance, Cliff, and I'm just not sure that I even need this, Mike. I don't know.
But you got the insurance, Gene, for your daughter,
Yeah?
for her financial security.
Now,
Now,
Gene, I understand death is something that no one really likes to talk about. But, it is a difficult conversation to have when it happens. And, people at that point are like, what now? Let me ask you, Gene, if you were to die yesterday, who would be making your arrangements today?
That's why I got a brother.
You leave it all up.
Look, when Lynn died, it says right here, it talks about cemetery and cremation. When she died, I didn't have time to think about the choice.
Yeah, I guess I need to be a little more open to being responsible on it, but I'm listening.
Okay, well, Gene and Mike too, when someone passes, it usually affects their families in two different ways, emotionally and financially.
Yeah.
Which way do you think it will affect your daughter the most?
It's gonna affect her both ways, Mike, to be
Yeah.
honest, I don't know which the most, but.
You guys have been close for a
Yeah.
long time.
Exactly, and again, that's one of the reasons why we have these conversations, because on that day, this is, as it says here, is one of life's most difficult days. And, someone will have to make these decisions, and these are just some of the questions that your daughter and Michael have to ask. And, are you going to do cremation? Where's the services going to be held? Who's going to be notified? Will you be buried in the cemetery? Do you want above ground or below ground?
Are you really gonna want me to play Zydeco?
I guess I just have never liked to think about that, so, haven't been very responsible. I'm listening, guys.
Well, and again, these are just some of the questions that people, like you said, you don't really think about until it's that time, that day. And Mike, you had to experience all these things.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was kind of frustrating for you having to come up with all that information in a short amount of time, right?
Yeah, it was.
There's two questions that you probably asked yourself in regards to your wife. And Gene, something you may want to ask, or that consider that Mike and your daughter may want to have answered. And these are two questions that may never truly be known. Number one, did they do what you wanted?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the way that you wanted? And did they do the right thing? And without pre-planning, you never really know.
Mm-hmm.
A good example of that is a coworker of mine. Her father passed, and one of his wishes was that that his cologne be put in his casket. And so she thought it was kind of an odd request, and so she, honored that request as best she thought, and put a brand new bottle of his favorite cologne in the casket. But it wasn't until after he was buried that she realized his true intention was to spray some in case the smell from the embalming fluid was unpleasant for people.
Sure.
And so again, his wishes weren't clearly outlined. So again, that is something that, is important and to plan for.
Hey, Mike, you could maybe do some Ben Gay, since I'm always putting it on my knees,
Ben
people,
Gay.
people remind people.
Tiger bomb.
That's right.
Let's talk about an easier conversation, and pre-planning is an easier conversation. If you look at this picture and you see a mother handing keys to her son about to drive her car, now obviously you would think that before she hands him the keys to the car, there was some preparation that went into that, right? I'm sure she made sure that he went through some sort of driver education course, right? Did a lot of behind the wheel training, got his license, probably even made sure that the car was in good shape and had insurance, wouldn't you think?
Sure.
So we prepare for those things that might happen. Now, don't you think it's also important to possibly prepare for things that we know will happen, like our death?
Yeah.
Have you prepared for anything to help protect your family
Well, that's the point.
in general things?
Well, in general, sure, in general things, yeah.
He's got life insurance on his daughter.
Mhm.
I've got some life insurance, yeah.
Okay, so it makes sense for you to prepare to protect your family, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's one of those things, it makes sense to prepare for those things, and again, even with car insurance, I'm sure you don't drive your car without insurance, right?
Right,
And you keep that in force because of what might happen, right?
sure.
You don't get insurance with the intention of having an accident,
Yeah.
but you see there is an importance to prepare for those things. Now, preparing for things are simple as 4 little steps. Reflect, record, secure, and share. These are some of the things that just make it really nice and simple. And if we consider that first one, reflect, that's kind of what we've done so far today. Kind of reflect on your lives, what's important, preparing for your protecting your family, and so now we see that there's some things that you really do need to reflect on and consider.
Do you remember all those fishing trips up on the Puget Sound?
Sure.
And does your daughter know about the time I almost drowned you? Hey, you gotta admit, it's funny now,
Yeah.
though. But don't you
Yeah.
think those are stories
Sure.
that
Yeah.
would be,
Yeah.
good to share?
Well, I'm not sure about that one, but maybe there are a few others, Mike.
Well, you certainly want to reflect on different things in your life and,
Sure.
and be able to record them and even have them mentioned, perhaps, when you have those services. The second thing, again, is to record those things. Now, when I spoke to you before at the fair, I mentioned about bringing you your own personal planning guide.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that I'll go into a little bit deeper in just a moment, to record those things and to actually make your wishes and desires known. Okay? And again, then there's secure. People may want to make sure that they can secure things, and there's a lot of different reasons that people may want to secure different aspects. Sometimes it's a matter of either emotional or financial. By securing things now, you lock in today's prices as opposed to future prices. Emotionally, making sure that your family is protected so they don't have to worry and go through these things at that time of need.
Okay.
All right? And so just to go into the personal planning guide, let me just show you how this works, okay? If you look at the table of contents, it lists some of the things. Your legacy, important information, genealogy, family history, service preferences, memorialization, just to go into some of those things. All your information is going to be placed here, easy for your family to be able to reference. When we talk about your legacy, there's certain things or achievements that you may want to record. so that your family knows these things.
Hey Gene, your proudest family moment when you didn't drown.
Hey.
These are things that
He's got the old guy.
that can be listed. Genealogy, family history.
Mhm.
You talk about a mixed family. Do you know what your mother's maiden name was?
Sure, yeah, I know that.
Okay. Is this something that your children know, or their family
I think my
history?
kids know my mother's maiden name, yeah, I think. But
I'm not
beyond
sure.
that,
I'm not sure my kids do.
no, okay.
Again, this is things that can be listed to make it easy so that that it can be prepared. And then there's other important information. Were either one of you guys in the military?
No, I
No.
just missed the draft.
Okay. Do you
I didn't
belong
miss
to
it, yeah.
any organizations or groups that may need to be notified?
Yeah, at my church, I felt like, would that be under that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, also, when you pass I'm sure you have different bank accounts, and as you mentioned, life insurance. All the information is something that people are going to need to have access to secure. You don't want your accounts staying open or certain passwords on accounts unavailable so that they can
Sure.
take care of these things.
Hey, that's a good point. I just read in the paper this morning that, I don't use it, but I know you do Facebook.
Sure, yeah.
Apparently there's a place where you can put your birth date in there. They're saying don't do that because hackers can use your name and your birth date that you gave them to steal your
Isn't that
identity.
amazing?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah,
good info.
all right. But again, this is something I'm going to leave with you so that you can fill out all this information. And
Wait a minute, don't we each need one?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we have to share the
No.
book, or what?
I have another one in
Oh,
here
okay.
also, and something that you both
Or you
can
only
do.
want one policy, you only wanna sell one of them, so.
Well, since you know that you both want to take care of this, let me get out something to show you. Some of the things that we can consider here at Eternal Hills Memorial Park. Some of the things that we want to offer. Now, had you considered cremation or a traditional burial?
I think we were talking about traditional because we're maybe interested in a legacy type thing that the generations can take advantage of as well.
Well, let me show you some of the properties here, and then what I will also do is arrange a date and time that you can come out to the cemetery, and I can actually show it to you in real life, okay?
What do you think?
Yeah.
You're up, you're gonna go now, huh?
Well, if you buy lunch.
I'm always the one that buys lunch.
That's right.
Sounds good.
Okay.